Good afternoon, or whenever you're watching the video. I'll be taking slide 234, and this tutorial covers only the first part. Now, in the first part includes Introduction to Developmental Psychology and basic processes of growth and development. At the end of this lesson, you should be able to define developmental psychology, understand the 12 stages of development according to Thomas Armstrong, know the key differences between growth and development, understand how growth occurs through mitosis, define maturation and types of maturation, and lastly, have a basic understanding of the general principles of development. So, I'm also going to give a heads up and a quiz later. The heads up now is if you're looking for a way not to read this whole thing, I'm sorry, you have to read it because biology. And I don't really like biology, so you just have to because you have to go through everything, you have to read everything. But I would advise you to have a little note. So you can just be writing key points in your little notes. So it's not rewriting because this thing's a lot. And opening it every time is intimidating. So you don't somewhere you can write in a little note. I have a little note. So now, the study of human development from conception to adulthood is the concern of developmental psychology. But this is developmental psychology 1, so it's only concerning everything from conception till I think infancy or early childhood. I'm not really sure, but it's not the full thing. So now this is an aspect of psychology which deals with the development, growth, and behavior in human beings right from the time of conception to the period of adolescence when most of the functions of the body become matured. Now that's the definition of developmental psychology. It also deals with the factors which determines what a child will become in the future. It is therefore a scientific approach which aims to explain how children and adults change over time. The aims of developmental psychology are to describe, explain, and to optimize development. What they mean by optimized development is how to make development the most efficient. How to grow the best. How to make a child develop the most efficient, I guess. Developmental psychologists should have the knowledge of how children grow and develop in order to guide and shape their future development. Okay, that's it. It is at the early formative years that the child's personality and behavior are determined. The child is a product of both nature and nurture, meaning that both your genes and environmental factors have a part to play in the development of a child or an infant. This implies that the hereditary factors interplay with the environmental factors to determine how the child grows and develops. Developmental psychologists are interested in common patterns of development and growth and the way in which people differ throughout the lifespan. Now, we are going into the 12 stages of human life cycle by Thomas Armstrong. Now, it is 12 and it seems like a lot. If you can cram it, fantastic. The way I do it, I put myself into the shoes or I put my experiences into it. So you can ask me at any point, I'll be able to tell you. You can ask me any stage and I'll be able to tell you the period in which they're in because I've already put my experiences and things I've seen into it. So I don't need to cram it. So the first stage is pre-birth. And with pre-birth, just imagine at this point you can be anything. You can be white, you can be black, you can be short, you can be tall, you can be... So at this point, you are not yet defined, so you can be anything. So at this point, just imagine endless potentials. So the baby can be born with disorders, the baby can be born normal, the baby can be born with albinism or something. You can be anything, so just imagine endless potentials. Then when you are born, this period is not really for you. I just see it as a period for hope for the parent. So your parents are now hopeful. Oh, my child will be this, my child will go to this school, my child will do this, the parents are just hopeful. There's a period of hope. Now, from 0 to 3, let me explain something. From 0 to 3, if you are near a child, you see that the child doesn't care if there's no food in the house or if there's nobody to help it. The child is crying. The child's needs is always first. And if you remember what Freud said, there are three, I don't know the term. There's id, there's ego, and there's superego, I think. So now with id, the id is subconscious, meaning that it wants what it wants now. It doesn't care how to get it, it wants it now. And that perfectly defines a 0 to 3 baby. So you understand. So that is infancy, 0 to 3. Now I'm reading from the book. This is the period of vitality and pleasure seeking, id principle. So what feels good, what doesn't feel good must be done now. I don't care what's happening. That's the baby. So you should be able to just imagine a baby from 0 to 3. That's how they always behave. Then we have 3 to 6. That's the period for playfulness. That is early childhood. Now this is when the baby is getting like use of the limbs, and the baby is moving up and down, the baby is running, so the child is very active and playful in this period. Then the next period is imagination. What I like to think here is like the child begins to ask you questions. The child begins to think. The child begins, oh, why does that happen? Oh, or you see children like between this age, they have toys and they are playing with it and they are fighting. I don't know, that's when they buy them Legos. Then they are fighting, they are flying planes. So the child is very, like, this is where their imagination comes up. Then 9 to 11. This is the period of ingenuity. I always forget the definition of ingenuity. Okay, I don't think I can get the definition. But the definition of ingenuity is clever. Or, like, just try to look for a definition of ingenuity. So the child is being clever. And then this is between 9 and 11. Me, personally, I don't like being around children this age because they are doing tricks on you. They are unpredictable. I don't like it when people are unpredictable. So the child is, especially those 10-year-old boys that their hair is cuckoo, like this. Oh my God. They are running up and down. They are being smart. They are running tricks. So just like I've already put myself into it. So now I know the period of ingenuity is a child between, he has to be 10-year-old, so between 9 and 11. Then the next one will be of, I think, passion. 11 to 20, passion. So this is when the child is going to secondary school. Oh, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a footballer. So now their passion really come to life. Then we have 20 to 35, which is the period of enterprise, and that is early adulthood. So this period, you are in university or you are starting a business, you are putting one or two things together, you're trying to make a name for yourself, so you are enterprising. Then in this, then we have midlife. That's between 35 to 50, which is the period of contemplation. I don't really understand the definition that she said, but like you are contemplating the choices you've made. You're thinking, oh, is it the right choice? So I think that is it. Then benevolence. This is, I think, they'll be kind, they'll be calm. Have you met people like 50 to 70? They are just different from how they were. And it is it's a very noticeable development or change. They are just a bit more calmer. They're a bit more nicer. So between 70 and above, this is the period of wisdom. So they are wise. Like, they may not know everything in the world, but they have a unique way to do it because they've experienced so much that they just become wiser than the average person. So then death and dying. Some people say that death gives life value. So I'm guessing Thomas Armstrong also thinks that. So this is a period of life. Death teaches about the value of living. So because you know you are going to die, you think, oh, let me do this, let me do that, let me do this. If life was unending, you wouldn't have the urge to do something. So because of death gives you so much meaning in life. Now, the basic processes of growth and development. Development refers to qualitative changes in an organism. Now, the key word there is qualitative changes in an organism. So development, it is a progressive series of orderly and coherent changes in human beings, meaning that it is, like growth. Let me just say growth. Growth is the quantitative changes. So when you say quantitative changes, that means it grew in height. It grew 2 centimeters. Oh, when you were 10, you were 4'11". When you were 15, now you're 5'6". So now you can say that was a quantitative change. That is growth. You've grown. Now, development is a bit different. It's not something that it is quantifiable. It is, when you are, let me give an example. When you are 35, you begin to bowed. So you are moving into the next stage. You are developing. Or when you begin to grow like body hair, you didn't grow. You can't say, I grew 2 centimeters. You just developed into the next stage. So there are stages, like Thomas Armstrong previously said. So it is progressive in the sense that changes are distinctional and lead to moving forward. It is orderly and coherent because there is a definite relationship between a given stage and the stages which follow it. So again, let me give another example. When a woman moves into menopause, She didn't grow, she just developed, she just went into the next stage. Yes. So the qualitative changes that come upon an organism as a result of accumulation of experiences. Fantastic. The experiences derived from hereditary and environmental influence. Thus, individuals reflect on their experiences and become more refined and matured in dealing with novel situations. I think when they say experience is when you develop, let me give as a driver, you start off driving badly, then after a few months of experience, you're a better driver. Now, can you quantify that? You cannot quantify it, but it is a qualitative change. You've moved stages, you've developed. Now, there's developmental processes. Growth. I think I've talked about growth, but growth refers to the quantitative changes in an organism. This one you can quantify it. I can say, your head was 3 centimeters last year. Now your head is 15 centimeters this year. You have a big head. This usually involves permanent increase in size and structure. Permanent increase. Once you've grown, you've grown. These quantitative changes are both physical and mental. These include physical changes in height, weight, girth, internal organs, mental changes. And mental changes in memory, reasoning, perception, and creative imagination. When they say mental changes, like a year ago, the one that immediately comes to my mind, a year ago, you can only cram 11 numbers, or you couldn't cram your mom's number, but now you can cram your mom's number, like you've grown. All these changes make the child to be physically grown and mentally responsive. The quantitative changes in height, weight, girth, and others as a result of multiple cell division called mitosis. Now, I'm sure you know what mitosis is. This usually involves the body cells called somatic cells. And somatic cells always have 23 pairs of chromosomes. So 23 pairs, meaning that everyone has 46 chromosomes. Now, it's easy basic biology. Once the father and the mom, they put the father gives the egg, the sperm, and the mom gives the egg. That's 23 chromosomes. It makes 46 chromosomes. But that's for another thing. In the process of mitosis, one cell divides into 2, then into 4, then into 8. Each daughter cell, so in mitosis, each daughter cell is exactly like the mother or the parent cell. So this is the diagram. So you can see that we go from 2 to 4, from 1 to 2 to 4, and to keep going. That is mitosis. Now, maturation. Remember when I spoke about pre-birth? It is the period of potentiality. Now, maturation is the gradual unfolding of those inborn potentialities, of the inborn potentialities of traits present in the individual because of hereditary endowment. Meaning that you being 6 foot tall was something that has already been written in your genes. It's already a trait that you have. So you growing into being 6 feet tall or 6 feet or light skin or anything was already written, was already something that you've been endowed with in your hereditary. I don't know if that's right English. But I just want you to understand that maturation is you gradually growing into what you are supposed to be. Fantastic. According to Gezel, maturation is the net sum of the effects operating in a self-limited life cycle. You can cram that. This definition connotes individual differences. Now, maturation goes along with physical growth and development of the central nervous system. Time and experience are also inevitable. Maturation is the function of 2 major factors, which are in turn dependent on time and experience. So the first one, there are 2. We have phylogenetic and ontogenetic. Now, for phylogenetic, just know that it is something that you can do simply because you are a member of that species. It is a trait or an activity that is common to that species. Like when a baby is born, the baby starts crying immediately. No experience, nobody taught it. It didn't have to wait 2 weeks to learn how to first cry. It was already crying. So these include, and I'm reading from the book, these are functions which are common to all members of a species. These include crawling, creeping, sitting, and walking. So after 1 year, once the legs of the child have developed well, it will start walking. It doesn't have to go to school to learn how to walk, or it never learns how to sit and everything. Experience is not necessary to this function as they are time, age, physical and mental maturity dependent. Now for ontogenetic is is when experience is needed. Depends on experience. So these are functions common to individuals. Now, for phylogenetic, we said those are things that were common to the species. Now, this one is common to the individual. These are things that you learn maybe because of your environment or because of your genes. These are something that you can do, but they are based on experience. So now, let me say, for phylogenetic, when you were crying, it was not something that you needed. So it was not something that you learned. So making noise with your voice box is a phylogenetic, because you don't need to learn how to do it, or you don't need experience. You do it immediately you are born, simply because you are a human being. But for ontogenetic, now for you to be able to make meaningful, understandable speech, you have to learn it. It takes time and it takes experience. I hope that makes sense. Making noise with your voice box, phylogenetic. And being able to use language, being able to understand language is what? Ontogenetic. You're still using your voice box for the two, but now they've been split up. It should be noted that no hereditary tendency can mature fully without environmental support. So that part of the book is saying, let's say your dad is Usain Bolt and your mom is Amuzan, that Nigerian runner. So now you already have the genes to be a fantastic runner or to be a fantastic athlete, but they send you to Nigeria to come or they force you to come and be a medical doctor or something. Those your traits, those your tendencies will never mature. And then I also wanted to mention something onto genetic. Oh, never mind, you survive. It should be noted that no hereditary tendency can mature fully without environmental support. So I've explained that. So now we are moving into general principles of development. I hope you understand. You can answer me. General principles of development. Every species follows a pattern peculiar to that species. So the way humans will grow from in the womb will be different from the way another maybe mammal or another species will grow. So one of the reasons why development of human beings is so similar is because our common specifies hereditary DNA guides us all. So our DNA guides us. So it's already encoded in your gene, in your DNA, on how we are going to develop. So everybody develops the same way. Prenatal and postnatal development have a genetic sequence with certain traits or personal qualities appearing at fixed intervals. Genetic study of children over a period of time has shown that development follows a fixed pattern, and pattern is influenced by experience. Every child has a unique pattern of growth. Such patterns are, however, a part of an established order of nature. So what you're trying to say is every child can grow differently, but there's an established order of nature. Like those patterns are, however, a part of an established order of nature. So you can grow uniquely, but at the end of the day, there's still like something you're following. So the first one is cephalocaudal. Now, I want you to look at this word and then think about it. So something that what I'm trying to do so that you can think about it. If they ask you without having to read or cram, you can get it. So now, split the word into two. You have cephalo and you have caudal. Some textbooks will tell you that cephalo means from the top of your head to your clavicle, like just at the end of your neck, or just your skull. But basically what that's trying to say, your head. Then your caudal is your tailbone, or is like the bone at the end of your spinal cord. So now basically, so that's from head to tail. So now once you've already talked about head to tail, now if they ask you what is cephalocaudal growth pattern, you can easily say it means from head to tail, but not tail, head to foot. Now, according to this principle, development spread over the body from head to foot. There it is. So, and also your body first develops every organ in the head. So the head is fully developed. It doesn't develop the skull, then develop the ribs. It first develops the skull. So your ear, your eyes, everything in that skull. Good. Then it moves to your trunk. Then it develops everything there, the organs, everything before it goes down. So the organs in the area of the head develop first and mature first before the organs in another area. The head develops and achieves its final form before the trunk and the legs. The child is first able to see, hear sound and jingles before he can use his hands and legs in a meaningful way. So do you understand? Now, proximodistal. This one, I don't really have a way to like break it up, but it's basically saying that growth occurs from the central axis, like from your center, from your trunk, before it gets to the extremities. And again, everything in the trunk is first developed before the extremities begin. The principle holds that development proceeds from the central axis of the body towards the extremities. In the fetus, the head and trunk are well developed before the rudimentary limb boards appear. Then after the limb boards, you have the arm boards. And after the arm boards, you have lastly the fingers. And later you'd be able to use everything individually. So basically saying that humans, or in this proximity style, structure therefore precedes function. Structure in the sense of, your arm is first built before you can then use it. And then after you've learned how to use it, it still takes a while before you can do fine motor movement. So basically structure before function. The principle of differentiation. I don't know if you did further mass or mass. I don't know which one is that. So differentiation, you have a simple looking equation, then you make it more complex. Then integration is opposable. That's from that day. So differentiation, you go from 2, 4, 6, 8. Development proceeds from simple to complex, from homogeneous, meaning an area of 1, to heterogeneous, to an area of more than 1. And from general, and from general to specific, from general and diffuse responses to more differentiated and specific ones. Thus, coordination of large muscle groups precedes fine muscle movement. This is also concerning what I said before. So your hand can move. You can move your hand freely as a child, but before you can learn how to write, it takes a while. So at conception, the mother egg cell and the sperm father fuse. The zygote itself contains 23 composed of chromosomes. That's 46 chromosomes. Excuse me. It starts to divide itself into 2, then 4, then 8, up to billions. So it forms all the systems in the body. Now, this principle of differentiation, it will make sense when you think about it. Like, you don't have, like, the body doesn't do, let me create the system first. Then let me create the heart. Then let me create tissues. Then let me create cells. No, it goes from the easy part to the complex part. So it goes from cells, then it forms tissues, then it forms organs, then it forms systems, then you are formed. Do you get? So it goes from easy to complex. In both mental or motor responses, general activities always precede specific activities. In postnatal life, general activities like in any postnatal life, the infant can move its whole body but incapable of specific responses. Meaning, when the baby is born, the baby can move around, but you can't tell the child to point 1 finger or point 3 fingers or write a note because he doesn't have. He's not yet able to make those specific functions. The baby can wave his hand, his arms in general movement before he or she is capable of any specific reaching. In speech, the baby learns the general words before specific words. Even before he learns the general words, he can already cry, he can already grunt. So that's general. He or she calls every man daddy. In writing, the child learns to hold a big object before a pencil. He or she learns to make circle before triangle, because circle is a general. I'm sure you understand the point by now. So now we have asynchronous growth or split growth. You shouldn't let this confuse you with discontinuity of growth. But let me talk about it. So asynchronous of growth, the principle of asynchronous growth or split growth is basically saying the growth of one doesn't affect the growth of another. That's just how I know it before we even read into. So because your head stops growing, doesn't mean that your body would now stop growing, or it doesn't mean that all your body grows at the same. I think there are some animals like that all their body grows at the same pace. But we as humans, your head stops growing after a certain number of years. Your eyes, like 5 years or something. Then your body, your legs, from adolescence, it still keeps growing. Your internal organs, they still keep growing. So that's basically it. So the growth of one, or the stopping of, like, everything grows at their own pace according to your DNA. The principle holds that changes that occur in the body proportion are due to asynchronous or split growth. This means that different parts of the body have their own period of rapid and slow growth, and that each reaches its own mature side at its own time. So don't this part of period of rapid and slow growth, don't let it confuse you. And that each reaches its own mature side at its own time. Growth in no part of the body is, however, continuous and concurrent. A child's brain does not stop growing while his muscles are growing. Exactly. So the growth of one doesn't affect the growth of another. So, but if the exam is going to be a written exam, I don't know. I have no idea. The exam is going to be written. Maybe you need to learn all these keywords. But for me, I just understand it, and I think that's more important. Asynchronous growth is particularly obvious when different parts of the body are compared. The muscles, bones, lung, and genital increase approximately 20 times during the growth years, while the eyes and brain, which are relatively more developed at birth, increase much less. The eyeballs complete their growth during the first 5 years, and the brain also completes during the first 10 years. But the heart and other internal organs require more than 20 years. So organ systems and functions do not proceed at the same rate throughout development. So that's basically what I just said. Though growth and development usually proceed in an orderly sequence, the rate of growth often differs from one organ and system to the other, from one period to another. During childhood, development of genitals is slow but very fast during adolescence. Now that will be spoken more about in the principle of discontinuity of growth. So this one is saying that different organs have a period, or different organs or different systems have a period of slow growth and a period of fast growth. So think about it. Like, let's talk about the male genital organ now, or the male sexual organ. Between 0 to between 0 to like 10, it is pipsqueak, it is tiny. But once the child enters adolescence, like say 13 to something to like 16 or 17, it just poof, get what I'm trying to say. And then so that's just basically it. And then another one that is in the book, see, during the first 9 months in the womb, the growth is very fast. The child develops from microscopically small sperm cell to an infant of about 3 kg mass. So, basically you say growth between conception and birth is fast, is rapid. The growth is mainly physiological and consists of all bodily structures. For the last 14 days, during infancy, the growth is temporarily at a standstill because the baby is trying to adjust. There's a period of growth spur before adolescence. From puberty to the age of 15, 16, growth is fast. So puberty, you are growing taller, hair is coming out of your body, your voice is cracking. So changes are more noticeable and very, very fast. This period is followed by gradual stability up to time. So, but from after puberty and after 16, 17 till adulthood, the change is slower. You barely notice. So, in brief, there are 4 stages of growth comprising of 2 rapid and 2 slow stages. So, from birth to 2 years, like I've said before, is rapid. So, in this part, if they ask you, you just have to think, from conception to birth to 2 years, I was tiny. Then from 2, I'm 3 kg, I'm that big. That was very fast. So, from 2 years till adolescence, the growth is noticeable, but it's not that fast. It is slow. Then from puberty to 16, changes is happening. You're growing taller, blah, blah, blah. That is rapid. Then from 16 to maturity, like, I don't know. I don't see any difference between the way I looked this year and the way I looked last year. It's all the same. So 16 years, maturity, growth is slow. Now, complexity of growth. This one is saying that you cannot... Let's just read from the book. Growth is an extremely complex process, of course. It has different collective aspects. It is complex because what happens to one area affects other areas. So you can't say for sure that because I hit your head as a child, that's why you are retarded as an adult. There could have been, your mom didn't feed. Your mom was drinking while she was born. Like, there can be so many reasons to one disease or to one cause. The effect of this is that it's not easy to specify causal relationships since there can be other causes in other areas. Causes for causes for growth retardation in a child may be traced to reasons other than malnutrition. Is that your mom could have been born, your mom could have been older when she gave birth to you, the chance of Mongolism is higher, or she was drinking. Like, there can be so many reasons. It is complex. Now, so we have Number 7, structure generally precedes function. So this is basically saying the body, or as a principle of growth, the body generally goes for structure before it makes the function available. So the structure is first built properly before you can use it or before you can do certain things with it. It may be because of emotional stress, illness, social isolation, or physical harm. All physical components of the body, including the brain, usually mature and get ready before they can be functional. Before any organ can be used by the child, such an organ must be physiologically ready before they can perform developmental tasks. Now, principle of uniqueness of individuals. Like when your mom tells you, oh, you're special, you're different. Every child is unique, every child is different. Even twins that had the same background, that grew up in the same place, they are still different. And you can look at your class, everybody is different. Among twins of the same background, there are still some obvious differences. One may be more active than the other. Uniqueness occurs in either specific general sensitivity or vigor. By sensitivity, we mean overall reaction to stimuli. So if you get punched, how do you react? Some people can be highly sensitive. Some people will start screaming back, and some people will just take it and be less sensitive. Some children like being quiet. Others respond to stimuli gradually, and yet others respond very fast. This gives rise to individuality in a classroom. Some children are more active and very vocal, while some are quiet and calm. Modifiability of rates and patterns of growth. This is basically saying that some factors that there are ways, or there are some factors, or there are some factors that modify or change the rate of growth. So now, the view of this principle is that growth is natural, but the rate and pattern of growth can be modified by various factors and techniques. So some of these factors are nutrition and drug taking by the mother. So does your mom eat well? Does she not eat well? Does she eat a balanced diet? When you were in the womb, did she take some certain drugs, like maybe for morning sickness? There's so many factors. So environmental stimulation. So like I previously said about being in the right environment, even if you have the good genes, you need to be in the right environment that stimulates your growth. Then opportunity to learn. Maybe you have the potential to be one of the best chess players in the world, but nobody to teach you, nobody to help you develop that skill. You wouldn't grow it, or something like that. Now, illness and diseases. Oh, did your mom have some disease that she passed down to you, or did you have some birth defects? So illness and diseases can also affect can also modify or affect your growth. Then genetic aspects. Let's say, for example, your mom broke her hand, and in the middle of breaking her hand, while trying to treat her broken hand while you were in the womb, she went for an X-ray. Then one of the rays hit you and it changed, or it affected your genes. There's going to be mutational change. Now, the presence and absence of some of these factors can retard the rate and pattern of growth. So, yeah, that's all. What is the primary concern of developmental psychology? I already told you. Again, the scopes or the goals of developmental psychology is to describe, explain, and to optimize development. So what is the primary concern of developmental psychology? Now, with those goals and with that scope in mind, the answer, so diagnosing mental illnesses, studying human development from conception to adulthood, understand economic growth in society, analyzing cultural differences. The answer is pretty straightforward, and it is B. Which statement best describes the interplay of nature and nurture in development? So development is solely determined by hereditary factors. Environmental factors are the only influences. Wrong. So the answer here should be C. Both hereditary and environmental factors work together to shape development. Which stage in Thomas Armstrong's human life cycle is period of imagination? Now, with what I tried to explain before, so it is not in the first stage. That's already clear. It's not the last stage. It's not the period of wisdom, because that's the old man. Now, imagination. So that's something early. That is something that happens like in the first parts of the 12 stages. So now the first one to you is potentiality. Second one is for the parent, for hope. The third one is what? The baby's crying, 0 to 3. The baby wants everything now, right here, 0 to 3. So that is not what we are looking for. Now we have 3 to 6. Now the child is playing. So meaning that the period of imagination is after the child is playing. So that would be middle childhood. That would be 6 to 8. So late childhood is what? Ingenuity. That's when the child is running up and down. They are pulling tricks everywhere. They are being smart. They are being clever. How is growth different from development? I think I told you to put this in mind. So development can be defined as the qualitative series of changes, and growth can be defined as the what? Quantitative. So which one gives us that? Growth is the quantitative changes, while development involves qualitative changes. So that is C. What is the chromosome number in each daughter cell after mitosis? This question always confuses me. In each. 23? I don't know. Which principle states that? So, even me, I'm failing my questions. Which principle states that development spreads from central axis of the body? So, firstly, the word says central axis. Now, you can say for sure it is not cephalocaudal, because cephalocaudal is what? From the head to the tail. Cephalo, head, caudal, tail. So, head to foot. So, the answer is B. What does the principle of differentiation suggest? The principle of differentiation, what does it suggest? Differentiation, going from easy to hard, from homogeneous to heterogeneous, from large muscle groups to specific muscle groups. So development proceeds from general to specific activities. Is that it? Development is uniform in all individuals. Growth rate is consistent across body parts. Environment does not influence development. So the answer is A. During which stage of life does the fastest growth occur? Now this is I'll say inferential question. So you're going to use what you know to get this answer, because it was not in the book. Now from the book, I told you that there are 4 stages of slow growth and fast growth. I mean, they have 2 each. So now, during which stage of life does the fastest growth occur? Is it early adulthood? Is it puberty? Is it middle to childhood? Or is it birth to 2 years? If you remember, I told you, from conception till 2, or to birth, you grow from a sperm cell, you are tiny, till you are 3 kg at birth. So that is the fastest you would ever grow. Like, that growth is exponentially crazy, fam. So the answer there should be birth to 2 years. Which of the following is not a factor that can modify rate and pattern of growth? So firstly, nutrition. What you eat, what your mom eats while she's pregnant with you. I think we call that prenatal or something. Then genetic mutations. If there is an anomaly in your cells and they don't grow the right way. Cultural beliefs and environmental stimulation. So cultural beliefs is the answer there. Which principle explains why identical twins can exhibit differences in personality or behavior? So the answer there should be C. Once again, what's asynchronous? Asynchronous is saying asynchronous growth or split growth is saying that different parts of your body grow at different rates. So the growth of one doesn't affect the growth of another. Your head stops growing at 5, but your legs will continue. If it's that all your body stops growing at 5, you'll be short. I'm sure that's sometimes with the complexity. You cannot say for certain because you cannot specify the cause of something in a body, because growth is very complex. Uniqueness, everybody's unique. Maturation. Okay. So I think with that, and also I also want to recap on maturation phylogenetic, which is the ones that you can do simply because you are a member of that species. For example, crying, walking, sitting. Now I have a question for you. I'm not going to tell you the answer. If walking is phylogenetic, what is running? Very easy question. Now we're going to recap. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to you can define it. Now you understand more the 12 stages of development. If you don't, know the key difference between development and growth. Understand how growth occurs through mitosis. Define maturation and the types of. So another question I have: what principle can you say does mitosis follow? That's another easy question, very cheap. Now define maturation and types of maturation. So you already know them, phylogenetic and ontogenetic. Then lastly, have a basic understanding of the general principles of development. So now you know all 9. And so now we've come to the end of the lesson. Good luck and goodbye.